Hey there, this is Alexis Knight, your guide through this chaotic world of real-life crime, courtroom drama, and today, through the mess of the world's food system. Here's the deal, if you did the crime, be ready to do the time, but what happens when the crime is global and invisible, and no one's telling you where the bodies are buried, right? Today, we're digging into the egg crisis. Price hikes, the finger pointing, and the very uncomfortable truth about how the world actually works. Spoiler, it's not what you think. Let's start with the obvious. Yes, eggs are expensive. You've noticed it. Your neighbors noticed it. TikTok's already exploded with grocery hauls where people are gasping over the price of a dozen eggs. So let's go behind the curtain, shall we? Millions, yes, millions of hens have been wiped out in the last couple of years. If you didn't know, which you probably don't because no one's telling you, this is all because of the avian flu outbreaks that have been happening across the United States. Less hens, okay, means fewer eggs and higher prices. That is simple supply and demand. If the news could lay it out for us, it'd be a lot easier and nicer, wouldn't it? But yes, the bird flu that they have been talking about is a part of these eggs and their demand and their price hiking. That's the easy part of this answer. All right? How about feed prices? Do you think about what chickens eat ever? They eat corn and soy. Do you know who else eats corn and soy? Well, almost every animal you rely on for food. And when war breaks out, like in Ukraine, the breadbasket of Europe, that global grain supply chain snaps. Are any of you thinking about that? Suddenly, the price of chicken feed skyrockets. And not just here, guys, I'm talking everywhere. Your egg farmer in Iowa is now paying through the nose just to keep their hens alive and laying eggs. Do we think about these things? How about fuel and labor? All right, those trucks out there, guys, they don't run on hopes and dreams. You know fuel prices. Fuel prices spiked alongside all the inflation and the labor shortages because no one wanted to work anymore from coast to coast. I mean, all of this means it's harder and more expensive to even transport the eggs to your local store because, they're not made at your store, right? Here's where it gets even deeper. We're not just talking about United States problems, okay? Eggs are not grown on isolated farms and shipped right to your house like people think in some fairy tale. This is a system that runs globally. And you're standing inside of it, whether you like it or not, whether you think everything happens here or not. When the United States runs low on eggs because of a disease outbreaks, where do you think we turn for our eggs? Well, we go to Canada and Mexico, our neighbors. That makes sense, right? Anywhere that has extra supply. This is standard procedure. When we import dairy, yep, if you didn't know, some of our milk that comes from Canada too. Not because we're out of milk, but it's because we're all a part of a globalized trade system. And we really need to open our minds and understand what that means. It's something that affects all of our products. The United States is no longer an island all by itself. We are locked into a global web of trade deals, corporate pipelines, and logistical nightmares that stretch across borders. Here's the punchline. Most people think, and of course, right? Why don't we just make it here? Why don't we just produce more eggs right here in the US and forget about this problem? It seems so simple, and it does sound good on paper. But what happens is that idea ignores the massive global reality, because it's a reality now. We are global, and this global reality has been in the workings and being built for decades, whether you've noticed it or not. A reality where companies and governments all rely on each other now for their food, their fuel, and labor, and it all keeps the machine for the global system running. So here's where people usually get it wrong. Blaming the current president, whoever it is, we don't take sides on Alexis Knight, okay? But we blame the president, whoever's in office, like he's the manager at maybe, your local grocery store. What are you doing to cause this? But your eggs and even your milk, your grain, it's all hooked into a system that is so much bigger than any one country, any one leader, even the United States. So while everyone's standing in the grocery aisle furious, thinking someone in Washington is asleep at the wheel, the truth is we're all riding the waves of global trade. You're feeling the shockwaves of the war in Ukraine. Whether you like that or not, that's a cold, hard fact. You are paying the price of labor gaps from California to Canada. And we all are caught in a supply chain that is running on rules that you never even voted on. Did you know that? We went global without any voting. So while you're busy out there, those of you pointing fingers at, of course, the usual suspects, we've all done it, the real culprits are sitting quietly behind the international trade agreements, the multinational corporations, and the invisible hand of globalization. Here's where Americans are, most Americans are really still asleep at the wheel, if you look at it. We are stuck in this outdated idea that countries run like self-contained islands, producing everything they need, and a leader, whether it's the president, your governor, or the mayor, is somehow supposed to have a magic switch that makes prices drop, right? We automatically go to our leaders, as we've been conditioned to do. But let me break the reality down to you bluntly. That world doesn't exist anymore. It's nowhere, anywhere. It does not exist. We are living in a hyper-connected system where global trade, corporate supply chains, and international agreements dictate everything, from the price of your eggs to the clothes on your back. So when you're watching the news and getting riled up because your grocery bill has jumped, you need to ask yourself and look into it. Is this really a United States problem? Or is this the fallout from a system where what happens in one country sends ripples everywhere else? Let me give you an example, all right? A drought in Brazil. What can that do? Well, it spikes grain prices around the entire world. A shipping strike at ports, in France. Okay? You think it's happening in France? Nope. It delays everything. And that ripple effect happens across Europe and the United States. And then we blame the United States leader. A conflict in Eastern Europe. Well, your fuel prices jump, your fertilizer prices rise, and your food prices soar. You didn't know that. You think, I'm watching BBC and look what happened over there. That sucks. No, it sucks for you here. That's what happens. So you need to watch the international news and get out of this local stuff. It's world now. Even a poultry disease that might happen in China, okay, or even Mexico. Well, what happens? Suddenly, egg production tightens, and you're staring at $8.99 for a carton of eggs in Texas, right? This is not about patriotism or national production anymore, guys. The system that has been built over the last few decades is called globalization, and it's here, and there is nothing you're going to do about it. But the smart thing to do is get out of the local mindset, because what this all means is we entirely rely on other countries, whether we like it or not, and they rely on us, whether they like it or not. That's why your milk might come from Canada, unless you're getting it from a local dairy farmer. Your eggs They might come all the way from Mexico with that little organic stamp, and your bread might be made with grain that was supposed to come from Ukraine, but it never did. Here's the part no one's telling you, okay? The leaders that you love to hate all the time, they cannot do anything about this. Presidents do not set the price of soy or eggs. They do not stop the bird flu from wiping out millions of hens. And anywhere in the world, that now becomes our problem. They don't run global shipping lanes. I don't think so. Is the president running those shipping lanes? Because anything that happens anywhere, like Indonesia, could affect that. I mean, sure, they might pass laws, they sign trade agreements, or push for relief packages. But the big machine itself, the main thing, it's all global. And every cog in every country affects the rest of that wheel. It doesn't even sound like a great idea to me. It sounds very inefficient, but this is what we're dealing with. But people still are being trained, and I'm talking trained. It's almost like they don't want us to know that this has been going on, and we're still watching the local weather and the local news and getting mad at the national news. It's all global, guys. It's all global. We have been told, I want to talk about this training, right? You're told it's Biden's fault, it's Trump's fault as of late. It's the farmer's fault, right? Certainly the local grocery store, they did it. They always do it. But you know what? Every single excuse we make, every single thing that we're prompted to complain about, it's all wrong. It's all part of the machine. It's all part of the system. It's how the entire global economy is wired now. And maybe you haven't noticed, but you need to notice. It's almost like how AI is taking over things, right? Ever notice how your internet searches just aren't quite as good anymore? Looking something up on Google is just not cool anymore. It's not really working. And that's because you need chat. Get the free one, do something, get with the times, because searching on Google, that's old time now. Just like thinking that your country runs itself, or even your state, even your city. Yes, we live in the locale, but all the big decisions, the way that we're living, how we are conditioned to think, this is all global. And really, the people have been left in the dark about this, about how deep this rabbit hole goes. For most of you listening, this is something you probably don't even believe, right? There's no way. I'm on my city council. This doesn't happen. Yes, it does. It does. They just don't want you to realize it because all our voting, all our complaining, the big divide, it's all planned for, because if we think in little things like this, in locale, we're not worried about what's going on globally, and it gives the freedom to do things globally without our choice, without our voting. Okay? So while you're busy yelling at your television, or maybe you're venting at the cashier who did it to you, the companies that helped build this interconnected mess, really, they're all doing just fine. They love it. They are moving goods across borders. This border war, these tariffs, this is all a game. We're not giving things to other countries and being mean by tariffs coming in. We're all doing it to each other. That's the funny thing about this, and people don't realize it. They can hike the prices anytime for any reason that they want in any country. And while we complain to our local leaders, they're on vacation. You want to hear the most bitter pill here of all? Even if we made everything right here in the United States, as of right now, if we tried to do that, we would still be stuck. Because those crops, they still need fertilizer that comes from countries we don't control. All the equipment we're using, well, that all runs on oil that trades on a global market with prices not run by us. And the milk you're pouring on your cereal every morning, your kids, your cookies, whatever. It might have just crossed borders before hitting your table and you didn't even know it. Look, guys, it's not us versus them anymore. We are all in the same mess. It's all of us in this same global pot. Maybe think about it this way. Think about a franchise, okay? Like McDonald's or Starbucks or Subway. Sure, each location has a local manager and they hire the staff. Maybe they even choose when to run a promo or close early. But the overall menu, the pricing structure, the supply chains, the rules, that all comes from corporate headquarters. You can swap out a manager, but corporate still runs the bigger picture. They run the show. That's kind of what the world looks like right now. Okay, why some cities are forgotten, they're not part of the global plan maybe. It's okay if they're ignored for a while. Here is where it starts to sting. Americans were sold the dream of freedom. I'm not saying it's all gone, but we were sold the freedom to choose. It's how I was raised. The freedom to control your own economy and build a life based on your values. But if you look at reality these days and zoom out, you are eating from a global menu and paying global prices. Your food, your clothing, your gas, your meds, they're all moving through multinational pipelines, all of it. And when one part of the franchise falters, you do feel it locally. Here is what you've lost so far without even noticing, okay? Food dependence, let's talk about that. It's a big one. We used to grow most of what we eat right here, regionally. Now what you eat, like your produce, it's grown thousands of miles away, and milk that's processed and mixed together through cross-border systems. Even your meat could be packaged somewhere overseas and then shipped to your local store. Decades ago, America used to make its own cars and appliances, clothing, you name it. And it all worked really, really good. But now, most of that is manufactured somewhere else. American factories have closed, jobs have gone offshore, and the supply chains are now scattered across the globe. We don't set the prices anymore, not really. Prices are set by global markets, stock exchanges, and international corporations. Sure, your leaders might tweak a tax or subsidy here and there, but the system itself, with all the powers, it's all global. I don't know if any of you can remember when a town could just kind of decide to do things its own way, right? Now states and cities, they all have to navigate around federal laws and international trade deals, corporate contracts that were never written with your neighborhood in mind. They don't care about it now. And the wild part, most people don't realize any of this, that we are all living under corporate global rule. It's all hidden behind the illusion that you have local choice. You vote for a mayor, sure you do. You vote for a president. But behind all of that still is the franchise. Global food conglomerates deciding where you get your eggs from. Oh, maybe it was Mexico. Well, not anymore. Now you're going to get them from over here. Global banks influencing the price of your mortgage. Anyone notice the new banks coming out? They don't even have names. They're all just letters. Things are changing. Always watch the banks. Global banks, they influence the price of everything. Global supply chains controlling what's on your shelves. You're blaming your local store because it's not there? Oh, think again. They can't even help you. And you didn't vote for any of that. Most people don't even know they're inside this system, and everyone is blaming the wrong people. And that's okay, because as long as you are blaming the wrong people, you're not touching who's running the system, and it will continue. The hardest truth, you are free in America, but you're still inside a cage, a global cage. You're managing the store, but corporate, okay? The franchise sent you the rules, the stock, and the schedule. That's how it is. This is what it is. And okay, so now that we've ripped the lid off the global machine, here would be the next logical question that you're probably thinking. Okay, Alexis, but when people get pissed, when the outrage hits social media, when they storm the comment sections and start all that boycotting, isn't that doing something? That's a question I get. Let me break it down. Okay? Americans, they have a very big impulsivity to vent. We are a culture raised on freedom of speech. So when prices skyrocket, whether it's eggs or gas or your rent, the knee-jerk reaction is to complain loudly and publicly. You've all seen it. Maybe you've been a part of it. Social media blowing up with grocery receipts. Hashtags like eggflation are trending. Angry posts, okay, directed at the corporations and the politicians, and sometimes the neighbor who just bought out all the eggs at Costco, right? But complaining and venting, they're not really the same as action. Again, when you step out and look at it. So what is actually happening? Okay, I mean, are there protests over this? Well, not really, not like you'd think. Egg prices went up. People ranted online. But there were no mass egg protests at Capitol Hill or your state house. You didn't see truckloads of angry citizens blocking egg shipments or staging walkouts at farms. Now, compare that to France, okay? When fuel prices spike there, they block highways. When the government messes with pensions, they're burning barricades in the streets. In the US, we lean more digital, okay? We create memes, we drop comments, we share all the TikToks, but on the ground, physical action is actually pretty rare. Meanwhile, the corporations behind this, the whole food industry, they're watching the outrage, okay? But they're not shaking in their boots. They're not worried about anything. And why is that? It's because they know that digital outrage fades fast. Our attention span is like 30 seconds. You think we're going to stick to anything for more than a week? I mean, the media cycles spin all the time. People move on. And as long as the shelves are not completely empty, people just keep shopping regardless. Remember this. Complaints feel good when you make them, right? But they rarely impact the larger picture. So in this case, the supply chain. Without coordinated, actual targeted action with people that have done the research and so they realize where the problem actually is. You know, strikes, lawsuits, policy pushes. You need those kinds of things. Or none of this even moves the needle even a tiny bit. It's just us making noise. Again, they're on vacation. Let's be honest, many Americans, they prioritize convenience. That's the biggest annoyance, when you can't get what you want for the price you want and you want it right now. That's it. The same person ranting about egg prices on Facebook, they're going to hit the grocery store tomorrow and buy eggs. Why? Because it's easy and it's close and they just want their eggs. Okay? Now, who actually does benefit when we're out there screaming and yelling and complaining, right? Online or whatever. Well, the outrage clearly gets channeled into the headlines. They're waiting to see what our next outrage is. We're the next headline, okay, guys? Politicians use it also. We start to get outraged, well, they can use it as ammo for their next speech. Media companies rake in the clicks and the revenue. Well, we're all screaming. But when it comes to actually changing anything, and I'm talking the system, our franchise, yeah, that doesn't flinch. The prices stay right where they are going to be. The same trade agreements, they're still in place, so nothing changed there. Your food's still coming from whatever country. Because complaining without any kind of strategy, it's like yelling at a storm. Stop raining. You get it off your chest, it might feel good, but the rain keeps falling. So we're not being very smart about it, even though I always say the people have the power. They're just not, people are not researching what the problem is, understanding where these prices are coming from, and while we're screaming and complaining to the wrong people, The people in charge, they don't care. They think it's great as long as we're not looking in their direction. And it's the same cycle every time. Things happen, people get frustrated. People feel powerless and blame leaders that they can see because the real system is just too big to even believe it's there, and it's definitely too invisible. It is not there for you to see. It is not meant for you to see. And it's too overwhelming overall, the entire thing. What would you even target to get at it? And there's the trap, isn't it? All right then, so let's drop the hammer. Right now, Americans are stuck in a pattern, and the system loves it. You are frustrated, you are angry, you are staring at your receipt in disbelief, wondering why your grocery bill looks like a freaking car payment. And so what do, right? We rant online, we point our fingers locally. People believe they're taking a stand, and in a sense they are, but here's the truth that no one wants to take in. All that noise is only feeding the machine. Social media rants are great for engagement. Blaming your local leaders, well, that's a great distraction from the real players behind the curtain. As your local leaders try to defend themselves in your eyes, the system up above doesn't care. Arguing with strangers that you think you hate because of I don't know what, because of whose fault it is, that's where they want you to do. Fight with each other. Don't look at us. Because, while you're shouting, they're just cashing in. Again, they're on vacation. The franchise, the global corporate structure that I broke down earlier, it is not scared of what you post on your Instagram about the eggs. They don't care. They're not shaking because you yelled at your clerk or dropped a snarky comment on your neighborhood app about Washington. You think they care? The system is way too big for random outrage to change a thing. Most people will complain, but will keep consuming. It's a fact. The anger eventually burns out too, because then people take a new stand. I'm not going to let this affect me. Right, goes right back to status quo. And that upper system, the franchise, wasn't affected one bit. But now you're in therapy, you're stressed out, you're probably on medication, you got really upset. Nobody cares. And this isn't just happening with eggs. This is going on with every single thing. Fuel, housing, medical costs, your food. And the more you rage without any actual direction, the easier it is for the system to just tighten its grip. Because here's the uncomfortable reality. Most people are not taking strategic, they're not doing any sort of collective action. People are venting in isolation, scattered across all the digital platforms with no unified aim, no goal, no coordinated movement, no force behind the fury. There's nothing. And meanwhile, the corporations, they just adjust their prices as they see fit. Trade deals, they march on and continue. Not affected one bit. The food still moves across borders, and the illusion of choice gets thinner by the day. So what needs to change? Well, everyone needs to really wake up and readjust how we all operate inside this system. You need to realize that reacting emotionally without a plan is exactly what the machine is built for, to help it withstand any complaint. It's designed for you to get angry. It is designed for you to blame your local leaders. It is designed for you to burn out before anything even happens. Any real change, anything. So here is my challenge to every listener out there right now. Stop feeding the outrage cycle. Stop letting the franchise system distract you with surface level villains while it considers you nothing, and it consolidates all its power behind the scenes. The system doesn't care about you the way that it is built. The individual does not matter. Because right now, under every single uncoordinated complaint, every misdirected protest that's disrupting your city right now, every empty call out online, It's just helping everything stay exactly the way it is, because now you have to deal with that, and that gets shut down, and everything goes back to normal when the real issue never got solved. If you really do want change, let's stop yelling at the clerk and start learning how this thing is actually wired. Because until you see the whole board, you're just another player getting moved around by people who have been running this game long before you even noticed the egg prices. All right, so let's recap. You are standing in the grocery aisle, furious over the price of eggs, and you have been taught to fire off that rage at whoever is standing closest to you, your local leaders, your favorite scapegoat politician, maybe the nearest corporate logo. But the real story is that you are inside a global franchise now. You need to get in that mindset. You don't just live in America. You live inside a system where everything from your milk to your mortgage is tied to gears spinning across the entire planet. And the longer that you continue to buy into the illusion that this is just a local problem or a bad leader problem, the longer you stay stuck in this game that is going to continue and you will keep losing. This is just like a parent, right? Maybe two moms are having a play date and the kids are in the playroom and they're playing and talking, but the women have something bigger to discuss. So it doesn't matter what the kids are doing as long as they're safe, right? They're chatting and playing, and maybe they even argue over a toy. But they don't need to be involved in what the grown-ups are talking about. The grown-ups deciding what's for dinner, where to go later. The kids have no choice. They just need to stay distracted while the parents really figure out the important things, right? That's how the world works now, and we're the kids, okay? You're not powerless, but you definitely are distracted. And that distraction, it's worth billions to people running this machine. So here is your final truth on this. Wake up and adjust, or get played. Because until the public stops treating global issues like local gossip, we're just going to keep watching prices rise without understanding. Watching our freedoms shrink, if you even notice, and choices disappear, all while the system keeps humming along. That's all I can say. I bring you the facts. This is Alexis Knight, signing off from another investigation into the chaos behind your everyday reality. I'll see you next time, if you're ready to look at the truth behind the curtain. Alexis Knight investigates. Until next time.